Before becoming a Pilates instructor, you're going to want to watch this video. And before you freak out, if you're already a teacher or in your teacher training to become a Pilates instructor, don't worry, this video is for you too. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Eileen and I'm a certified Pilates instructor from Miami. Now, before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for weekly Pilates and health related videos. I also have a ton of Pilates resources available and up on my channel so that you can look into if you're looking more into this career lifestyle. In this video, we're going to be going over all of the finance details that you are curious about when it comes to teaching Pilates. So because there are so many Pilates studios that are out there, I obviously can't speak on everyone's behalf in terms of pay specifically. So I will make the disclaimer that I do generalize some of these numbers based off of my experience in the Pilates industry and the market research that I did when choosing this as my career. All of the numbers that I use are pretty average, middle of the base, but they may be higher or lower depending on the city that you're in, how long you've been teaching, and a bunch of other factors. So just keep that in mind. Now, I figured it would be best to create 3 different scenarios to help you better grasp the numbers that I'm about to tell you. Now, with all 3 scenarios, they do not happen overnight, and that is so important that I tell you right from the get-go, because when you sign on as a new Pilates teacher at a studio, they're going to probably try and sell you on the amount of hours that you can teach and the amount that you could be making working there. That is not going to happen from one day to the next. I will say that the first maybe 6 months, even up to 12 months, are probably the most difficult when it comes to teaching Pilates because your schedule is not built up yet. So keep this in mind. With all of these scenarios that I'm about to lay out for you, it does not happen overnight and it takes time to build up your clientele. Once you establish a healthy clientele that is coming in consistently, then financially you will see these results. In scenario A, we're going to be going over running your own Pilates studio. Now, this is not a studio where you have other instructors working for you. This is just you and your one-on-one client. Scenario B, we're going to be going over working full-time for another Pilates studio. Doesn't matter which Pilates studio, but we're going to be using reference hours of 30 hours a week working for another Pilates studio. Scenario C, we're going to be going over a mix of teaching Pilates and doing something else in the Pilates industry in order to make money. This is the scenario that I fall under, so we're definitely going to be doing a deep dive on that. The timestamps are included below if one section particularly pertains to something that you're really looking for, so feel free to jump to that section. And with that, we're going to get started. Okay, so for the sake of this video, I created a spreadsheet to help better explain each section. Now, of course, this scenario financially is the most appealing, especially right off of the bat looking at these numbers. But I will say that it is not realistic if you are new to teaching Pilates to jump into this scenario. If you are new to this career, this is definitely something that you can aspire to be, but it takes a lot of time to build relationships with your clients, and we're going to go over a couple of things to keep in mind with this particular scenario. All right, so the numbers are very lucrative, right? We've got 4 different options in terms of how many hours you are teaching every week, and I chose 90 as the going rate because that's really, really feasible when it comes to how much you charge for a private session, especially if it's your own clients. It can be higher, it can be lower, but let's say you're teaching 10 hours a week at $90 an hour. Every month you're going to be bringing in $3,600, and every year that would be your annual salary, $43,200, working 10 hours a week. We'll jump all the way to 40 hours a week. You're making close to $200K here. Of course, this is all pre-tax, but as you can see, these numbers are very appealing. Working 40 hours a week of seeing all these privates, I know instructors who do this. It's definitely possible, but it is very exhausting at the same time. So here are a couple of things to keep in mind. Number 1, what are your overhead costs here? So are you running this Pilates studio in your home? Are you renting out a space? In addition to overhead costs, the equipment. Now, a reformer alone can easily be $5,000. And then you've got the chair, the ladder barrel, the Cadillac, the spine corrector, any props to make it a full comprehensive home studio. Of course, you could start with just a reformer and build up from there, but definitely lay out, if this is something that you want to do, all of the costs associated with starting it up and seeing how much you'd really have to work in the beginning in order to just break even. Equipment maintenance is something that you will have to take care of as well, and it's not costly, but it does take up your time, and it's time that you are not being paid for. You won't have 401k, insurance, PTO, so if you go on vacation for 2 weeks and you're not seeing any clients, you're not seeing them virtually throughout those 2 weeks, you're basically not getting paid for those 2 weeks. You set your own rate, but you do have to do the legwork of finding your own clientele and building those relationships. If you work for another studio, of course, they're going to do that for you. So here you're basically on your own. And now you don't have to wait for a paycheck unless you have maybe packages that your clients can book, but likely you'll be getting paid when the session occurs. So that's definitely a bonus. You'll basically be seeing money flowing into your account every time that you have a session, and if you're having multiple sessions a day, then by the end of the week, it'll definitely all build up. You can definitely be selective over which clients you see. This is a huge pro because clients can really, if you have a bad client, they can really drain your energy, and once you have good clients, you never want to let them go. Good clients are the best thing in the world, and knowing that you have control over who you can see is pretty awesome. You'll probably need to create an LLC because you should be treating this as your own business. So keep in mind also the costs associated with starting a business. And now your pay will fluctuate. It will be inconsistent. Let's say you want to strive to teach maybe 20 hours a week in this scenario. You have the resources available to you to set up a home studio. Just know that your clients, as much as they want to, they will end up being inconsistent at one point or another. They will go on vacation. Things will come up in their lives. So if you have 20 clients that you're seeing every single week, not every week is going to look the same. So just keep that in mind. All right, so there you have it. That is scenario A. Looks beautiful. It's definitely something that people can do. This is 1,000% possible. So if this is one of your goals as a Pilates teacher, then keep these numbers in mind because it is very, very feasible as long as you continue to work hard in your career. Now let's move on to scenario B. With this scenario, there are a ton of different, I want to say, options and equations that you can put together. So it's really hard to gauge just an average number. And I want to explain this better because this is a happy medium. We are doing 30 hours a week working for another studio to get this number. This is based off of 21 privates, 7 group classes, and 2 semi-privates every single week. This can definitely fluctuate. You can have more privates, you can have less privates, you can have more group classes, less group classes, no semi-privates. Pay can obviously be different depending on the studio. And lastly, for group classes, most studios will give you a base rate, and then depending on how many clients sign up for your group class, you'll typically get an additional $5 per head for that class. For the sake of this video, we're going to go with full group classes, full privates, 30 hours a week. Privates will probably be the majority of your income. They also, privates and semi-privates are typically the highest yielding pay. Group classes are a little bit lower unless the class is completely full. So you've got all of the numbers laid out here. Working 21 hours a week, just privates, you're making $33.60 a month. With the 7 group classes, let's say they're filled, this number probably would be higher if the class was filled. But again, it depends on the studio. You're bringing in almost $1,000 from just the group classes every single month. And then semi-privates typically can pay even up to $55 or $60 an hour. So let's just say you're teaching 2 a week, you'll bring in $360 a month, which brings you to an annual salary of $56,400 before tax. This is working 30 hours a week, which a lot of Pilates studios consider working 30 hours a week full time. So here are a couple of things to keep in mind with this scenario. You will get 401k and insurance if you are working full-time, which is typically 30 hours a week, but not all studios offer this. The bigger established ones like Lifetime, Equinox, they do. Some smaller studios do as well, but it's definitely something to ask. If you want the benefits of working full-time at a Pilates studio, you are going to need to teach these amount of hours. But of course, then you get the added bonus of being able to go on vacation, the time off, getting health insurance, and all of that. Now, class coverage is a pretty big thing in terms of team settings. So being able to be flexible and helping out your coworkers is definitely a plus. So keep that in mind. There will be coverage that will be needed. And if you can lend your time to help out your coworkers, they will probably do do the same in return when you need it. This isn't a financial note, but it can be lonely. Even though you have coworkers, it kind of feels like you don't. So when you work for a Pilates studio and you're teaching classes there, a lot of the times you don't really overlap with other instructors. And if you do overlap with them, you don't get a lot of downtime to just chit chat and catch up with them. So a lot of the times when I go into the studio, yes, there's other instructors there, but our timings are typically off. So they either leave before I'm done with my last session or vice versa, or I arrive after they've already started. And our sessions in the studio that I'm at are 60 minutes. So I literally have I want to say 30 seconds to finish up one session and then get started with another. I barely even have time to run to the bathroom in between, get alone, go ahead and chit chat with another instructor. So it can be a little lonely, but if you build a relationship with your clients and you start to get to know them, then that can kind of alleviate some of that loneliness. And you don't really get to be too selective with your clientele here, of course. Whatever the studio puts on your schedule that's basically what you're going to be getting. Now, I already mentioned this, but yeah, sometimes you will have a flat rate for your group classes, and then you'll get the additional $5 a head for whoever signs up. So the pay for group classes can definitely fluctuate depending on how filled it is. Depending on the studio, you can set your boundaries for yourself when you sign on as an instructor there. If you know that you're a morning person and you want to work the morning hours, really push for that. Push for something that works for you and your schedule, but also know that you may have to start with days and times that you're not completely fond of, especially in the beginning. And then once you have more experience, and maybe once newer instructors start after you, then you can request the days and the times that you really want for your schedule. Once you are done, you're done. Of course, you'll continue thinking about your Pilates sessions and maybe planning for the next day, but in terms of work-life balance, this is really the best option because there is no busy work left for you to do at the end of the day. When you look at scenario A, you are doing a lot of things outside of teaching Pilates to maintain your equipment, confirm with your clients, a bunch of busy legwork. In this scenario, you don't really have that. So if you are looking to become a Pilates teacher and you really just want work-life balance, like you want to be able to go home and not think of things that you still have to do, then this is definitely the scenario that I recommend for you. You can work at multiple studios in this scenario to build up to these 30 hours, but if you do that, you probably won't be getting the benefits of health insurance, PTO, 401k. You will need to stick to one studio if you want to get all of that. Like I mentioned, your pay is going to fluctuate every week depending on the clients that are coming in, if there's any cancellations. Typically with cancellations, if you have a policy in place with the studio, you'll still get paid if someone late cancels. So that is a plus. You can be at the studio, someone can cancel, and even though you've got a free hour, you will likely get paid for that if they late cancel. If they early cancel, then there's really nothing you can do about it, and it'll be one less hour that you earn for that week. Now with these numbers, I did want to mention, so I chose $40 an hour for privates, $35 an hour for the group classes, and then $45 for semi-privates. Now this is pretty middle of the base. I will say that for group classes, base will range between maybe even down to $20 up to $35 an hour, keeping in mind that you get the additional $5 per head for anyone that signs up. For privates, it can really range anywhere from $30 up to $50, depending on the studio. I chose $40, pretty middle of the base. Again, I can't speak on every studio's behalf. This is typically the rate you will be seeing for private sessions. And then for semi-privates, like I mentioned, they are typically a little bit higher. It can go up all the way to $60 an hour for semi-private. Now, the last thing to note for this scenario is the more that you work, the more that you're going to get paid. It's as simple as that. The harder you work, the more sessions that you do, the paycheck will be higher, and it is 1,000% worth it. When you have those busy weeks and you see that paycheck come in, you feel like all of your hard work definitely paid off. A lot of the times with a corporate job, it doesn't matter how hard you work, your pay is going to be the same. So this is something really cool about the Pilates industry. Your hard work literally pays off. Let's move on to scenario C. And at the end of scenario C is where I'm going to do a little deep dive into my current mix on how I make money as a Pilates teacher. So scenario C is when you teach Pilates, but you also have another job. For the sake of this video, it's going to be another Pilates related job, because I don't really believe Pilates is something that, I think it's definitely possible if it's something you want to do, but I don't think that it's like a part-time job, really. I think that when you're in the Pilates industry and you really immerse yourself, you become more and more obsessed over time, and having your full career as everything Pilates related is only going to make you a better instructor. Now, of course, if financially you need another job to start out with that's not Pilates related and then do Pilates on the side to start, 1000% do that. It's how I started. I had a full-time corporate job in the music industry and I was becoming a Pilates instructor on the side. But down the line, if you really strive to get everything work related in your career Pilates based, I promise you that it's going to make such a difference, because mentally knowing that you're always focused on Pilates, one form or another, that is where the magic happens. With this scenario, teaching Pilates, I put here 10 hours a week at the $45 rate. You're making $450 a week, which is $1,800 a month. Now, in addition to that, let's say you've got that part-time job, 20 hours a week. Let's just put $30 here for the going rate. You're making $2,400 a month. So you're bringing in $4,200 a month pre-tax, of course, which is an average of $50,400 a year of your salary. Now, the main two things to keep in mind here: you don't get the 401k, you don't get the insurance, you're teaching Pilates part-time. You'd likely be an independent contractor for another studio, or maybe these hours that you're teaching Pilates are your own clients. Whatever it is, just likely that you won't have any insurance. Only a portion of your pay will fluctuate, and I think that this one is super key, because if you do get another Pilates related job or another stable job that is part-time, it's 20 hours, that is consistent every single month. With all these scenarios, when you teach Pilates, fluctuation is going to happen with your pay. But if you have something stable as a backbone financially, then you don't have to stress so much about when your clients cancel or if your clients go on vacation. So having that backbone of that part-time job that you know is going to be there for you financially really does help alleviate some of the financial stress that can come with tapping into this career and starting to build your clientele. Let's go over some Pilates related jobs. I put it as side hustles here. They're really not side hustles. It's part of your career. But these are some things that you can do in the Pilates industry to make up some of that consistent pay. You can become an admin for a Pilates studio. Maybe it's the studio that you work at. Maybe they need help on the admin side. This is definitely an option. If you have a skill that you can use, how can you intertwine that with the Pilates industry? Now, for example, I have a master's in marketing and I worked in digital marketing for 8 years. So I use that now in my Pilates career, and I'll explain that in just a second. But what skill do you have that you can use in Pilates? Maybe you're good at design and you can do graphic design for a Pilates studio. Maybe you're really good at numbers and you want to help the studio with their accounting. Think about your life and think about what skills you have and something that comes natural to you that you thrive at, and how you can offer that to a Pilates studio or in the Pilates industry in general. Another option is to become a contributor at a platform like Class Choreography. This is great because typically it will be an extra amount every month that you'll make, and it's something that, again, is Pilates related, so it'll keep you growing as a Pilates instructor. You can become a part of the teacher training at your studio. Oftentimes, the studio will pay you if you offer to help with the upcoming teacher training program. So if you love teaching other instructors about Pilates, then this is a great option for you. Also know this one isn't more of like the stable income. This is something that will probably happen maybe once or twice a year depending on the studio. It's an extra amount that you'll get paid, but it is not that stable income. Same goes for becoming a contributor at a platform like Class Choreography. And now the last option here is to run your own online studio. I'm not going to talk too much about running your own online studio in this video, but if it's something that you really want to learn more about, I'd be happy to make another video on what it's like running an online studio, pay associated with it. I just wasn't sure how much it would pertain to you watching this video, so I figured I would just keep that separate, and if it's requested, then I will definitely make it for you guys. So let's do a little mini deep dive to end off this video with my current Pilates mix, just so you can better understand how I teach Pilates and what else I do in order to make money. Now, here's my little Pilates mix. Like I said, I have the digital marketing experience, so I am a Pilates social media manager, which is my consistent paycheck every single month for another Pilates studio. A very well-established studio. This takes up about 20 hours of my week. So it's a full part-time gig that I honestly love. I love digital marketing. It's a great way of continuing to be creative for me. So this is something that I'm really happy with. I love the team there, and financially, it honestly keeps me pretty calm with things because I know that that paycheck is coming every single month. I teach Pilates 5 to 10 hours a week, and this includes the time that I film for my online studio. So depending on my clients for the week, this will range. I've mentioned this in other videos, but this is something that I've established for myself as a Pilates teacher. This is a very healthy range for me. Once I hit that 10-hour mark, I do start to feel the fatigue, and if I were to teach any more than that, I honestly don't know how sustainable it would be, at least in this period in my life. Maybe down the line things will be different, but teaching about 5 to 10 hours a week is what keeps me very, very happy, fulfilled, and passionate about continuing to teach Pilates. For everybody, it's different. This is the happy medium that I have found for myself. I'm also the founder and the CEO of my online studio, Pilates on the Green. This takes up about 10 hours of my week. I do everything for the business, from the business side of things to obviously the filming, the editing, and then the marketing side of things. I honestly at this point do not pay myself anything that my business earns. I have a separate business account, and I do this because I really want my business to grow. So I haven't started paying myself yet from anything, like not even 1 cent from what my business has made, so that I can really aim to achieve those goals that I have set for my business plans. You know, this is something that it's very time consuming, but I am very passionate about it. So I love to take the time to do every week, but I'm not seeing any financial benefit from it at the moment. Hopefully down the line, of course, that will change and I can start paying myself once things are stable enough. But right now, my priority for my business is to grow the business. I've obviously got this YouTube channel, I have an Etsy shop, and then I've got some affiliate marketing links. So I just got accepted into the YouTube partner program. I can't expect that the pay is going to be very high, but down the line, I'm going to start getting paid from YouTube, so that'll be awesome. So if you're here, I really appreciate you for being here and for supporting my channel. With my Etsy shop, I honestly make some passive income on there. I'm not going to lie. I started an Etsy shop when I was finishing up my teacher training, and I had created a couple of templates for myself for my observation hours and for my teaching hours, and I really liked the templates. Other people in my program were like, where did you get that? And then I told them I made it, and I would just send it to them, and I realized I could probably help other instructors. So I honestly just listed it up on an Etsy shop, didn't do anything with it, and now it's kind of just like taken off on its own. And every week I'll get a couple of random orders. So this is something that it's just kind of in the background. These aren't pre-planned classes. These are just little templates so that you can take notes on teaching and your observation hours and all of that. And then with the affiliate marketing links, it's a very, very small amount, but any links that you see in my YouTube description that you purchase items from definitely help support me and my business. Along with, on my website, I have some discount codes for some brands. So if you shop using that code, I get a very, very small percentage off of that order. And then lastly, in the spring season, which is right now, I coach softball at a local high school. It's from January to May. You get paid for it, but it's at the end of the season. That's about 8 to 10 hours a week, and that I won't see the financial benefit until the end of the season. And I do that because I grew up as an athlete. I grew up playing softball competitively, and the school didn't have a coach, so I really wanted to help the girls who wanted to play for the season. So it's something that I do extra, but I do enjoy being outside and playing sports, so that's why I do it. Now, honestly, right now I am working over 40 hours a week with all of these different things, especially YouTube. I don't know if you guys are aware with YouTube, but it is very time consuming to think of the videos, put together the ideas, film it. Editing takes a really long time, and I am a control freak. Obviously, I'm a Pilates instructor. I'm a control freak, right? But really, I put a lot of effort into my YouTube channel. So again, if you are here, I really, really appreciate it because it is very time consuming, especially in addition to all of these other things. Last year, there was a part where I wasn't posting on YouTube because I literally did not have the time as I was planning my wedding. So with this mix that I currently have, if I need to reprioritize things, then I definitely have to do so. But this is my current little mix of how I make money. Now, my main piece of advice to you is to create a pros and cons list. If all of this information is helpful for you, great. I am so glad. I hope that you give this video a thumbs up if you're finding it helpful. But it's also important to know that everyone is different and you're going to have different things that you want for your life and for your career. So making that list of, okay, now you have this information, what's important to you and what's something that you don't want for your career, make that list, lay it all out, see it visually, and from there you will help yourself figure out what it is that you want in terms of teaching Pilates. And there you have it. I hope that this video helps clarify some of the financial questions that you have, along with maybe some other things that I've bubbled in. Again, there are so many different factors and scenarios when it comes to your pay, but if you did find this video helpful, again, I hope that you give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for weekly Pilates and health related videos like this. As you know, it's not cheap to go through your teacher training, but just know that once you become a Pilates instructor and you start teaching Pilates, it won't be long before you break even with those initial costs from your training. If you have any questions at all that I didn't address that you want answered, please drop them in the comments below and I would be more than happy to help answer them. And that's all from me for now. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!